So the cardiovascular system is an organ system in which permits blood to circulate around the body. And also, it transports nutrients around the body, such as amino acids and electrolytes, alongside carbon dioxide, hormones, oxygen, and blood cells to and from the cells within the body. So the cardiovascular system consists of three independent systems that work together, which are the following. The first system is the heart, the second is the lungs, and the last one are the arteries, veins, and capillaries. In order to understand the cardiovascular system and the way it operates and functions, we can follow the path of the blood. Now, the path of the blood firstly begins at the heart. The heart is divided into four different chambers, which is the left and right atria and the right and left ventricles. The function of the left ventricle is that it pumps oxygen-rich blood out of the heart and into one of the arteries called the aorta. Now, from the aorta, which is a type of artery, blood branches out into a series of even smaller tube-like vessels, which are arteries, arterioles, and lastly, capillaries. So the function of the capillaries is that it delivers the blood's oxygens and nutrients to cells. Then the oxygen-poor blood then makes its journey back from the capillaries to the vessels called venules, to the veins, and finally back to the heart. And although before the blood can begin its journey around the body again, it must travel to the lungs to release some carbon dioxide as well as receive and take in some oxygen. Then from the right atrium, it accepts the oxygen-poor blood and it delivers it to the right ventricle, which pushes the blood through arteries to the lungs. So then the blood returns through the veins from the lungs to the left atrium into the left ventricle, which pumps blood back into the aorta again. So there are multiple ways in which the cardiovascular system can be trained in order to improve the performance while completing sports. So the psychological adaptation, the first one is the heart size. So the muscular walls of the heart increase and thickens, particularly within the left ventricle, providing a more powerful contraction, as well as the left ventricle's internal dimensions increase as a result of increased ventricle filling. And then the resting heart rate, RHR, is also another psychological adaptation, because as cardiac output at rest time remains constant, the increase in stroke volume is accompanied by a corresponding decrease in heart rate. So an example of a training program and reference to how fitness is measured in order to back this training program up is a program which involves high intensity of activities or any sports or exercises which can be completed for a small amount of time. So the five main functions of the cardiovascular system during exercise are: number one, it delivers oxygen to working muscles. Number two, oxygenates blood by returning it to the lungs. Number three, transports heat. Number four, delivers nutrients and fuel to active tissues. And number five, transports hormones. So a good exercise which involves high intensity within a short amount of time is interval sprints, which is a cardio workout, which whilst performing a cardio exercise, blood flow is directed towards working muscles and away from muscles which are not working, thus increasing the blood flow and the blood volume, which return all back to the heart. When the heart registers at a larger volume, over the time the left ventricle adapts to the change in volumes and enlarges. The larger cavity can store more blood and ejects blood at a higher rate of blood per beat, even whilst at rest, decreasing the initial resting heart rate. So a normal resting heart rate for adults ranges between 60 to 100 beats per minute. Generally, a lower heart rate implies a more efficient heart function and a better, higher cardiovascular fitness. For example, a well-trained athlete may have a normal resting heart rate closer to about 40 beats per minute. So the heart rate is the speed of which your heart beats at and this is measured by the number of contractions of heartbeat per minute, which is often referred to as BPM. So the heart rate can accordingly vary to the body's physical needs, including the need to absorb oxygen and excrete carbon dioxide. So another example of a way to measure or increase one's cardiovascular endurance is through the bleep test. It is a great way to train the cardiovascular system. The bleep test takes participants through a range of cardiovascular intensity levels, which help to develop a well-rounded cardio fitness. So this interdisciplinary unit between the two topics of biology as well as PE has been really beneficial to us as students because it gives us a better understanding and gives us an insight on how these two subjects are related to one another with sharing one common topic. So there are multiple different connections that I have observed and examined during establishing my knowledge in both fields, and I've received a more meaningful learning as this was made possible with the knowledge gained in biology of how the cardiovascular system functions, and it reflects upon the subject of physical education as we are applying our body, which is our cardiovascular system, for many various exercises that we had performed in class time, which involve all one common link. So the link between the two subjects can also be taken to a further level in order to expand our knowledge. So we learned a lot about the cardiovascular system and the heart in biology in order to understand how the exercises work in PE and how they help us. Thus, the link discovered through the learned topics in these classes is how sports would affect our cardiovascular system. I had used a range of different sources and websites in order to compile all this information which has been exhibited in this video, mainly from resourceful websites which were written by coaches, trainers, and teachers of the subjects of biology as well as PE. Many professors had also contributed to the websites that I had looked at. The reason being why I had looked at these specific websites is because Wikipedia and other unreliable sources could be changed around, therefore they wouldn't give me accurate information. Therefore I had mainly used resourceful websites in order to give me highest accuracy information as possible.